Up and hitting the streaming button. All right, everybody be quiet. Good morning, everybody. This is John Ellis with Alex Ricky Gonzalez, and we are doing episode 2 of Glass in the Class from Kent State University in a very cold area of the country. I'm guessing it's still cold out there. Today's special educator is Todd Beauc out of another cold place in the country, Minnesota. I'm not even sure who's colder right now. Todd is a very experienced software engineer with a history. I do web development. Let me just say this: his resume and his history would spill across the floor and go on for a long time. There's no other way to say that this man knows more about technology and IT than about 20 people combined. And we're looking forward to see what Todd has to say about communication from his perspective. And we're talking about persuasion today. I'm going to turn it over to Alex, who's going to let us know what's in store. Alex, there you go.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Glass in the Class, episode 2. As John mentioned, we have Todd Beauc. Hi, Todd.
Hi, Alex.
If you just want to do a quick introduction of yourself to my students, tell them a little bit about what you've done for work and your guess as to why I had you come in today.
Well, let's see. What I've done for work, I've done software development for Fortune 100 companies, as well as internships. My education background is both as an instructor. I have an English degree and can teach post-secondary, but I decided years ago to go down the IT field route and get a master's in that. Now I'm back to writing a lot more, and the only reason I can figure that I'm here, Alex, honestly, is because you called me a troublemaker.
Why would I call you a troublemaker, Todd?
Possibly because I express my opinions in manners that may be challenging.
So, how do you see persuasion in communication today? Do you think that technology is changing the way that we persuade people, or is it the same thing but with different tools?
Well, I don't mean to detract you from that, but I just want to ask something of the class as I'm sitting there looking at you. A show of hands. How many of you would just rather get up and walk out right now?
Be honest, kids.
There's one. Come on. One courageous one. Okay. Now, that's the point I want to make. Okay. Oh, there's another one. I saw that. The whole point of persuasion is that it is an art and a science. Realistically, persuasion comes down to finding a way to effectively communicate and connect with another person. Technology is giving us huge assets to use this, but it still comes back to how do you connect with that other person. There's lots of approaches, and there's always an ethical issue that comes into play. Okay? Now, I could say, okay, class, get up and leave. But then I'm stuck with, is it ethical for me to do this? I'm not the instructor, I'm the lowly guest. Okay? Or is it actually very ethical because the class is boring, you guys have tons of things to do, the technology is cool, but hey, you're more worried about grades at this point than sitting through watching some guy from Minnesota ramble on incessantly. That's the whole idea, though, of persuasion. The technology is a tool, but it's still how you use it.
That's actually really, that's a better answer than I was expecting, Todd. Good job.
Thanks, Alex.
Who has a question for Todd? Ryan?
Yeah. What was your most important persuasive pitch of your career? Whether it be like from somebody trying to join your team on a project or you pitching an idea to someone to help or to create something new?
My most persuasive pitch was me being brutally honest and obnoxious. I walked in after being recruited to one of the top merchandise sellers for electronics devices to the public. And I got annoyed with this team approach, and I said, really, why should I even consider going forward and coming to your company? You know, I put it on their lap, but I also attached myself to it. And that's really important, okay? I put the question to them, but I said, why should I? Why should I be a part of you? And I think that's something that comes with just overcoming a fear of engaging with someone else. It's easier to point a finger at somebody, but in all reality, there's 3 other fingers pointing back at you. So you always have to maintain that level of confidence and focus back on what you're feeling. If you're not confident in your persuasion, in your abilities, you can't connect with that other person or that other entity.
So are you saying as they go out into the business world and they start doing interviews, that persuasion is actually going to have a part of that?
Oh, definitely, definitely. I mean, there's all sorts of things to take into account, you know, personal appearance, and all these other things that you could discover in classes that might gear towards gaining a job or MBA studies or whatever it might be. Still, it comes down to your own confidence and your focus. It's always, well, I shouldn't say always, because there was plenty of times I was a timid mouse. I like to view the world now as you can either be part of a herd and part of a big collective, or you can be the bull. And by being the bull, you don't want to be obnoxious, but you want to lead by your own example. And that's a true art of persuasion, and there's a lot of science in it. Communication-wise, understanding humanity. So to me, humanities courses are invaluable. I mean, anybody can dot the I's and cross the T's. Programming will teach you language skills that really haven't effectively changed in leaps and bounds. It's how you connect, and those are the humanities. It's how we interconnect and interrelate and establish those relationships. That's persuasion. How do I connect with you?
Very cool, Todd. All right, other questions? Go for it, Joseph.
How does like that, the way you connect, how has it evolved in recent years, and where do you expect it to go?
Oh my God, it's evolved tremendously. When I started, it was with Internet Explorer 2 and text chats through bulletin boards. Now I get live streams and multiple cameras. I can actually see people at the other end and the other end of the world. I can pick up on personal appearances or body gestures. So it's gotten a lot more personal, but it's gotten a little harder to detect, because I can sit here extremely stoically and not moving and work at exercising my face in a minimal level, or I can be completely animated. So it has changed dramatically with data streams and the ability to communicate in a more visual manner, because so many people are plainly visual.
That's a good question. So when you're saying that we're adding these visuals or nonverbals, as we like to say in the communication department, would you say that we actually might move to a completely computer-mediated communication?
No, not at all. I mean, it's becoming a bigger part of our lives every day. Mobile devices has certainly given that. I can drive down the road and hopefully a cop doesn't see me having a video chat as I'm navigating the interstate. On the other hand, I still enjoy the fact of stepping outside of the technology and walking up to another human being and shaking their hand. That still is not being replaced by technology. You may get the impression it is when you're at a restaurant and everybody's staring at their cell phones, but sooner or later batteries die and you're faced dealing with another person again.
So if you were going to send a persuasive message, if you were going to try to persuade someone to do something, would you choose a computer-mediated platform, or would you prefer to do a face-to-face interaction?
I think it's dependent on location. For convenience, it's certainly more efficient for me to communicate with you this way. In your class, Alex, you're in Ohio, and I'm in Minnesota. On the other hand, if you turned around and told me, hey, it's 70 degrees out there, and it's only 30 in Minnesota, I'm going to be on the next flight. I mean, come on, I'm tired of the winter.
Oh, I think we feel you there. Any other questions for Todd about persuasion or what he does in general? Okay, well, we did have a question, Todd, because I said that you're a coder. What exactly do you do?
I write programs. I've done a lot of writing programs and software testing, particular to iOS. Apple products, obviously. I just like it. It's simplistic. It follows set regimens, and I enjoy breaking it and making it better.
So what are some of the larger projects that you've worked on?
I've worked on Siri, which was interesting. I worked on the Apple mapping that came out with iOS 6, which was a fiasco. I've beta tested and continue to beta test iOS. A new version of iOS is coming out this spring, and then they'll roll out the next version of iOS for the next series of iPads and iPhones in the fall, I'm sure. And I also have an opportunity to move ahead and look at the next iteration of Windows.
So how does what you do translate into what all of these people... How many of you guys have an iPhone?
Yay!
You're giving Todd work. How does what you do translate into what they see?
How does I... Okay. What I do is I build the software that allows you to communicate on your device with another person, whether it be through manipulating the camera through software or making sure that the software correctly encodes and decodes your voice over cellular data, or your text messaging just works and doesn't send what you thought was English and send it in Chinese, unless of course you're trying to.
Joseph?
So you worked for Microsoft and Apple.
Yes.
And which two companies was the designer more? I mean, you're a software designer, but I mean, like, I don't know, the person who does like the visuals and things of that sort. And which one does one company like place them higher than the other, would you say, or?
Well, I would certainly say in the last few years, Apple's focus has been on visual performances. They tell us what they want to achieve, and then as a coder, you go back and say, how am I going to do this? It's always been, here's the task, now here's the approach. And as a coder, you always go for the approach. What have we done already, and how can we make it better or facilitate that next level? And Apple has been all about simplicity. If anybody's familiar with their iPhone or had them for a couple of years, their whole visual appearance has dramatically changed in the last 2 years. It's gone from kind of a real world to more of a pastel-y, flat design. At first, I hated the flat design and programming for it. But when I became more understanding of what they were trying to achieve, it made things a lot easier. And now it's a piece of cake.
So most users would say that Apple has always focused a lot more on the visual aspect than Microsoft. Would you agree with that statement?
No. Actually, what they present has always been more visual. What they focused on is the contents of the egg. They present the eggshell in its all of its beauty and simplicity and uniqueness. But what they still focus on was the manufacturing, how to do it efficiently and still maintain this presence. So visual is important because they recognize many people are visual.
So Microsoft does the same thing?
They are changing towards that, obviously. The Metro interface, again, when I came from Windows 3.1, which was a breakthrough, now I'm using Windows 8.1. I hated the Metro design in Windows 8.1. Now that I've used it and it seems more intuitive, I actually like it. And the next version, as they build it out in their Windows Phone and Windows 9 when it starts development, again, will reflect those things. It's always a visual presentation, which is important, and that's how you persuade people. The number of people that dig down deep is a different thing, and that's, you bring them in with the image, but you get them with the content.
All right. That's a good place to end. Thank you so much, Todd, for coming into my classroom. Seriously, guys, this guy gets paid a lot of money for what he does and what he says. So I should owe him big time for doing this for us. Thank you so much, Todd. John, do you have anything to add to the conversation?
I just want to thank Todd for coming on. This has been another episode 2 of Glass in the Class. Do you want to wrap it up with closing statements, Alex, or do you want me to give sponsors and run us out?
Just give sponsors and run us out. My kids have places to go and other wonderful professors to see. All
right. Well, you kids, haul out. Everybody else watching, this has been a Glass in the Class episode, and it's Alex Ricky Gonzalez at Kent State University in Ohio, and our educator guest today has been Todd LeBeau from Minnesota. Todd is a software engineer and talked to us about persuasion in communication. This show has been brought to you by Wirecast, because without it, we wouldn't be doing what we're doing right now. And also by Google, because without them, this entire concept wouldn't exist. Thank you, everybody, for joining us for Glass in the Class. We'll see you next Thursday at the ridiculous hour of, well, whatever it is for me, and a normal time for everybody else on the East Coast. Thanks.
See ya.